recording marathon continues on. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about Halo, state of Halo Infinite, and whether or not the gaming industry thinks we have friends. Your hosts will bring you the news and their hot takes on these issues. Stop laughing!
That was a good one. He got me good.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own. Awesome. What are you drinking? Still the same thing?
Still the same thing. I actually finished most of my drinks, so I'm just sitting over here, parched throat. I am a dry boy over here.
You're a dry boy. Do you want to take a quick break and get something to drink?
No, we're good. I talk all day. I'm pretty used to talking. That's 99% of my job. So
I don't actually talk that often at work because I sit at my desk behind a screen, and I notice that when I have to talk to people for long periods of time, I notice that my voice starts going out. I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't let me talk this much. This is bizarre.
I literally talk for 10 to 11 hours a day, usually saying the same exact thing and then trying to make it interesting to people with a ton of different hobbies. If you guys don't know, I am a trainer. I do a lot of work with prehab stuff. So what that means is essentially I work with people who have broken their bodies in different ways, and I get them back into physical shape so that they can move and experience life the way they want to. It's a very, very fun job to do, but it's very demanding, and I do a lot of talking. I do a lot of not only training, but teaching as well. So that's the fun stuff. Anyways, let's get into our main topic. We're talking about Halo. We have a lot to go over. If you guys haven't checked this out yet, they did kind of release sort of a state of affairs video on Halo Infinite. And so that's going to be where some of our discussion is going to be going around today, but we'll also talk about some subtopics today, different games, series, books, things like that as well.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it to some of the newer stuff coming out. I know there is more Halo content coming out, but I wanted to start off with a question. I mean, we have almost every Halo game highlighted here. What does Halo mean to you?
So, I mean, me and you both grew up playing Halo. This was the first game I played on the Xbox console. This was the first-person shooter game I played, and this was like the first game that we truly played through over and over again. And it was much more. This was also one of the first like campaign-based console games that I played as well. The only other games that I had played that had sort of a story or a narrative to them were different like Command and Conquer games, but even then, I'm like, I couldn't tell you what these games were about. They were mostly just about like, hey, Russia's the bad guy, and you're going to take the Allied forces and go attack Russia. That was like literally all like real-time strategy games were about in the 90s, because that's what we had just spent like 3 decades being scared of the Russians, and kind of still are anyway. Maybe I'll cut that out. But they don't. But then we started playing when we were like, what, 6 or 7? Because our babysitter brought over his Xbox console and was like, do you guys want to play Halo? And I don't even know if he was allowed to do that, but I was like, you're the best person ever, because he brought Slurpees, he brought his Halo and a console, and he would get it all set up for us. So he would literally just get us hyped on sugar and let us play video games for like 4 hours. And I was like, that's the sweetest gig. That dude had it figured out. He was so fun. Yeah.
Coolest man I've ever met.
Yeah.
Ryan, if you're out there listening, hats off to you, brother.
We appreciate what you did quite a lot.
Yes. The original GOAT.
But yeah, Halo means a lot to me. I mean, it's kind of the like I haven't played Halo in a while, but while we were writing this episode, I actually have Halo Wars, and I was like trying to play that to kind of like, okay, refresh myself with the series, and then I remembered how bad Halo Wars was, which was kind of rough. Like, it's a bad game. It's terrible. Like, it's not great for as far as RTS games go. But again, Halo's not an RTS series. That was their branch into real-time strategy games. So like, bravo for them for making a sequel, but it was not good. But Halo does mean a lot to me. It was one of those games that it really got me into gaming. What about you? What does Halo mean to you?
Very much the same way. I really liked it. It definitely was my entrance into the FPS world. From Halo, I went to like Call of Duty and things like that, and I really like the Halo series. I put a lot of hours into it, but honestly, lately I've been not getting what I want out of it. The Halo stories have always really interested me. I've read not some of the newer books, but the older books. I read all of them, and it's some of the best sci-fi out there.
Absolutely.
They do a really good job of world building, and reading the book The Fall of Reach was really
So
emotional.
good.
It's amazing. And then when Halo Reach actually came out, I just had an immediate emotional investment to what happened, and it was just heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Just such a heartbreaking game, and that's why Halo Reach is honestly one of my favorite Halo games. I think it had, well, Halo hard to top Halo 3.
That was a good
Halo
game.
Reach is pretty dang good.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Halo means a lot to me. I really really like it. I have a lot of really fond memories of us doing LAN parties and playing Halo. One of my favorite modes, probably my two favorite modes, other than just like big team battle, capture the flag, because those are intense, those are awesome. But Griff Ball
Oh, I
is
love
so
Griffball.
much fun. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. They really got something going there. Griff Ball could be its own standalone game, in my opinion. I think it's so good.
I think that would be a hilarious like thing to make into an esport. I think that would be so funny because there's already so many people who play like Halo as an esport and play it professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would just be a hilarious opportunity for Bungie to just be like, hey, everyone likes this. Like, let's make it a little bit more theatrical, like kind of similar to like what Rocket League does, and let's make this thing go. Because I mean, we played hours and hours of Griffball.
Yeah, because that's a really fun mode because it's ultra competitive and it has a really low barrier to entry,
Mhm.
meaning you only have to know a couple buttons. And so we were in our friend group in high school, we were at such different areas that we could all basically pick up Griffball and all be pretty good at it all at the same time.
For sure.
And that's why I loved it so much. And then Infection obviously was a really fun
Oh,
game
yeah.
mode. I really liked the fast paced. And anything with zombies is just really fun.
Always.
So
I remember I got some of my first like highlights playing zombies. There was one where I remember just like getting some absolutely nasty shotgun kills. And just I think I was like screaming into the mic by the end because I was so impressed that I was alive. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And that was like one of my first like game clips that I posted, and I was like, this was the coolest thing. And then like I look back at it later and I was like, that was still pretty cool. You could probably not do that again. So
you are not that good anymore. Your time has come and passed.
ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are watching because I will not be doing it again.
I'm glad we were recording.
Yeah, for real.
Otherwise, there would be no evidence whatsoever that just happened.
Absolutely. But yeah, overall, really, really fun. I mean, for both of us, that was the game we grew up on, being twins. We played a lot of this together. I mean, we would spend probably hours playing like Swords on Lockout on Halo 2, going through the campaign. Couch co-op was a big thing, and that's actually something we're going to be talking about a lot as we kind of go into and transition into the state of the game as well. Before we do that, I do want to talk a little bit about Halo Wars, just because that was a kind of a side branch that Halo took into other game modes. Halo Wars 1, terrible. You play it again, especially after if you've played too many like really good RTSs like StarCraft. You play Halo Wars and it's terrible. Halo Wars 2, much better. So much more streamlined, easy to use, like much more friendly of a control pattern, all that fun stuff. So much better. But definitely a fun thing. Halo Wars was one of those games that it did take a little bit of a right turn away from kind of the main narrative that was happening, or the main function of the games as a first-person shooter, but it still stayed within the Halo universe, and I actually thought it added quite a bit, especially because the RTS does have a good way of being a good narrative tool for the series as well, which really is, when it comes down to it, that's like what Halo is. It's a good narrative. They have like dozens of books, like lots of games, so many different... I mean, they even have a TV show now, so...
That leads me to my next question. What did you think of the Halo Infinite campaign?
Never finished it. Like that was I think, and that's its most telling impact, is that I just didn't want to finish it. I played it quite a bit. It was big, but it just very quickly felt like, okay, this kind of just feels like because it's more of an open world style. If you guys don't know that about Halo Infinite yet, like they basically launch you onto this map, and you have primary objectives. You can either go towards them or you can't, or you can choose to do secondary objectives instead. And so, like any classic gamer, I did all the secondary objectives first and left the primaries for last, kind of hoping I would just be able to steamroll through those. And it's just one of those, it was one of those campaigns that I'm like, you know what, this isn't going to hold me around. I would play for maybe 30 minutes at a time. And I'm like, I'm going to go play something else.
Yep.
I just didn't feel like it was telling enough of a story. It was challenging, which is good. Eventually, I'd like to go through and 100% it, but I feel like that might be something of a grind, but also something I might just do on stream instead. You know, something I can kind of like chat with people while I'm going through. But eventually, I want to 100% it, but not for the actual narrative value of the game, more of for the completionist aspect of the game.
Yeah. Halo Infinite's campaign is boring.
Mm-hmm.
The story is boring. It's not very well written. A lot of the actual dialogue is very vague.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say they're just like they're talking in these like, oh, this is really important. We got to go do this, and then they're like, why did you want to erase me? Blah 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 blah. Because Master Chief at this point has a really kind of messed up relationship with Cortana. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. They've been kind of dragging that
out of Halo jail for that, but
well, they've been kind of like drawing that relationship out for a while, and like because she's very very important in Halo 1, 2, and 3, and then in Halo 4 she starts to take like the gradual degradation because AIs essentially just go crazy, and that's when because they've what's the in universe explanation, they learn too much and so they go rampant. It's the rampancy part of their life expectancy essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she kind of goes down that, and the human protocol is like, hey, if your artificial intelligence, this thing that like controls battleships, starts to go rampant, they basically just put them down because they're no longer useful. And Master Chief's like, nah, we're just gonna let this happen. And like, she knows how to control Halo rings because she's been in like 7 of them. So like him not doing that is like kind of a big oopsie, but he's also like humanity's best hero. So they're like, you can sort of get away with it, but it's also really bad that you did that. It's just kind of a weird thing. And it would have, I don't know, I wish they would have just dealt with it. But yeah, that'll probably get me in Halo jail. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're probably going to get raked over the coals for that one. Anyway, do we want to move to the state of the game?
Absolutely.
So the thing that continues Halo's existence as a game is not its campaign, it's its multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Bungie believes the people want, which I would agree with. I put a lot more time in the multiplayer than I do in the campaign, but I've put a lot of mileage in the Halo campaigns. I've put a lot of mileage in the PvE modes.
Absolutely, and that's actually what I was going to go into as well. I think Bungie has classically misinterpreted the desire for multiplayer as only a PvP or player versus player experience, whereas there's multiple different avenues for multiplayer play because we don't get the opportunity to play like classic couch co-op anymore, and frankly games just don't cater to that, and we'll touch on a little bit of that earlier. And obviously, as you guys know, that is like something that was really big for us because we were twins. We literally played on the same couch growing up. That's like what we did. We constantly were doing that, and that was a big thing for us. And they basically were like, hey, we don't care about couch co-op anymore. We don't really want to do those PvE modes. So like one thing that was really what made Halo Reach one of both of our, I would arguably say between all the Halo games, that would be our favorite game out of all of the entire franchise. It was the firefight mode, was a mode where you could play multiplayer, but you could play against the computer in a challenging mode that was still going to be challenging, rewarding, and you could still like unlock cosmetics and things like that. You were basically still advancing your multiplayer, like what they would call career level or your career rank. And you didn't have to do it by fighting other people. Because weirdest thing is not everyone's good at player versus player. I'm terrible at player versus player combat. So for me, I'm like, dude, I don't have the time to invest in getting good at this. And that takes a lot of the joy out of it.
Yeah, and here's a universal truth that gamers know, but don't necessarily want to acknowledge. The longer you enjoy video games, because some people get older and they, for whatever reason, video games aren't a hobby of theirs after like a certain age. We're not counting those people. We're talking about people who video games, like they still love video games and they're approaching their 30s, 40s, 50s, or even older. You get less good at multiplayer games the older you get.
Yeah, that is like a solid truth. Like you look at even like the pro circuit in games like Halo Infinite
Yeah,
or StarCraft, and they're like, yeah, the younger kids, like those who are like in their like late teens, early 20s, those are the ones that are performing the best because they have the highest reaction speeds. They're the ones that have like literally grown up on the game. This is like
yeah,
they're the best, you know, and then you see that reaction speed drop off. And that actually, I mean, a lot of what I go over in my professional world is like bringing people in their mid 20s, 30s, and 40s to that realization that like aging is inevitable. And like we're trying to do as much work on the before the aging process gets a hold of you, to essentially make sure that you can achieve the most amount of health benefits. And like part of that is like reaction time. Guess what? Your reaction time gets slower with time. Like, sorry about that. Some people, like, you can't just be Mr. Miyagi forever. So, you know, you gotta know that that gets harder, and then that intrinsically excludes people from the game because now they're getting like absolutely dunked on by 12-year-olds, and it's like, yeah, of course a 12-year-old's going to dunk on me on Halo. That's all they do. But it's also, that's if that's the only reality that I have for the game, like why would I keep playing?
right. So one thing I pulled up a couple stats because listening to Halo and the devs kind of went over a state of the game interview. It was like one guy from 343 interviewing two other guys from 343. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Everything they're going to say is crazy positive. And the game doesn't seem to be in a positive place. PC
No.
support outside of the Xbox app for Halo Infinite has basically dropped to nothing. On launch, we saw over 100,000 average active users on Steam, and now it's a little over 3,000. So that's 3%, and that is per SteamCharts.com. There's actually quite a few websites just devoted to tracking player interactivity with games via Steam. That same data isn't available on the Xbox app, and we're kind of shielded from that in a little bit.
Mhm.
That data, but we probably expect it to be the same, if not maybe a touch higher, because Halo is on Game Pass. So it's
So it can be played on the PC, which most modern PCs you can just hook a controller in. So if you are a console player, that does give you a little bit of overlap. But what you're saying is that Halo had a 97% drop off.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's rough.
And I mean, maybe that'll change with the winter update. I mean, they're really pushing this narrative of, oh, in the winter update, things are going to change. Here's a not really a question to make you like scratch your head, but like, was Halo released recently?
No, Halo 1. Like, are you talking about the entire franchise?
Halo Infinite. When was Halo Infinite released?
Ooh, I would guess maybe 2018, 2019. I actually don't know that off the top of my head. Because Halo Infinite and Halo 5, I never played Halo 5 because we had the same issue with the campaign. I thought it was boring, so I never played it.
Halo Infinite was released December 8th, 2021. The game is almost a year old, and we still don't have co-op.
I did not realize it was that young still.
But it's this growing trend of games being released that are just not finished.
Which you're like, why would you? I mean, to me, I get it. I'm actually okay with them doing that sometimes when they release things to Game Pass because you don't have to buy the game. You don't have to buy that outright, and that makes sense. So they're like, hey, we do want to release the product early, and they let people know well in advance, like, hey, this is an unfinished product. We're planning on releasing more stuff. But a lot of times then they put that in as like DLC, and they're like, oh, if you want to play a game, you like if you're one of those poor people who paid $60 for the original game and they didn't have a campaign, they release the campaign afterwards and they're like, hey, you have to pay for it. That's unacceptable because you're making them
So
pay
people don't have to
additionally.
pay for it.
That's good.
So the additional content for Halo Infinite is not being released as DLC. It is free, but
Looking at you, Borderlands. What?
hmm, yeah, but yeah, it's just not a good look because like why what what exactly is so hard about making a campaign that two people can't play? Like something must have changed in the way they fundamentally designed the game to where it doesn't work with two people. And like, my expectations for this game is that upwards of four people can play the campaign. That is my expectation.
Well, because it's an open world. You would expect an open world game to see more players. They did this with like Destiny, for example. Like the Destiny model is completely open world. Like it's very much MMO. And like Destiny is, I mean, it's not a game I play. It has a big following itself. I played it for a little bit. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But it is a Bungie release. So it's like you have people in a similar or kind of like an adjacent studio to 343, and they're just like, no, we just didn't do a campaign. I'm like, dude, you just have to load into their world and just like, I don't know, stay within a certain like binding distance of the primary player. Like that's not a feature that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, I don't understand why this game was developed so fundamentally different that this is now no longer possible, or is taking them a significant amount of time to release in the first place. Because Halo Infinite got delayed. Like it didn't even drop on time.
Yeah.
And it's still not done. And the thing is like, if you take over a year to fix a game, like I've moved on. I've done insert the Toy Story meme. I don't want to play with you anymore. Drops the Master Chief into the toy bin and walks away. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I don't want to play Halo. By the time they release the co-op mode, and so help me if it doesn't have 4-player campaign co-op. Because believe it or not, Bungie, I have more than one friend, more than just this guy. I have more battle buddies.
Exactly.
My interest for this is zero,
especially for a game that is the entire franchise is 2 decades old now. It came out in 2001, so if this franchise was a person, it can drink legally in the United States. And
oh my gosh.
And they've gotten to the point where you had and again, we kind of mentioned that this series is very expansive. It has a TV show, it has books, it has that like super emotional connection, especially when you read The Fall of Reach or First Contact or Contact Harvest, things like that. You read those books and they have such an emotional impact on the series because you're just the whole time you're like, all of my heroes keep dying. Like how is like you're just constantly wondering like humanity's just like barely squeaking out of these engagements, and when they do win, like everyone seems to die, and then they just like don't do anything with all of that like emotional built up energy and lore. And I'm like, you guys could do so much with this. And they basically were like, I think people only want to do PvP, and you're like, no, dude, you guys swung and you missed, and you weren't even standing on the same field. Like, what are you doing? So a lot of the information that we got from this, it was from that interview. You guys can see this on the Halo Infinite YouTube channel, or just the Halo channel, whatever it is. But they basically came out with a bunch of different player priorities that they are hoping to launch with the winter update, or they called them player experience goals. And these were pretty interesting. I'll go over these for just a little bit. I don't want to dive too much into it because, again, they already made a video that they're going to talk way more in detail about. But the 4 primary things that they wanted to introduce into the Halo game was they wanted it to be infinitely rewarding. And I think that was basically they wanted the player to be rewarded no matter what game mode they were playing. So that way, if you are playing campaign or multiplayer, you are still getting your ranked rewards, you're improving your career rank, and you're unlocking basically customization options, which I think is really cool, and I think that's a good step for them. I think it's a step in the right direction. They also wanted the game to be personal and welcoming. They wanted like players to feel like they belong, so I think that's like catering the game to different skill levels. They specifically mentioned in this section that they wanted the game to be significant, distinctive, and have varied customization options. So they wanted everyone to have enough options to customize your character that you didn't look like you could have the option of enough permutations where everyone could have a slightly different skin, essentially,
instead of a bunch of defaulty boys running around.
Yes, essentially, not just a bunch of caboose running around. That's for the OG players right there.
That's a deep cut.
That's a deep cut. They also wanted to make The third player experience goal was they wanted to make Halo Infinite comparative and fair. So they wanted to restructure combat so like that it was more competitive and teamwork was being rewarded. So not just like one man carrying the team. They wanted that multiplayer gameplay experience to be a really prime focus. That's where they want the spotlight. Whether or not that's what the community wants, that's an entirely other question entirely. They want additional ranked options and matchmaking improvements as well. It's definitely no fun if you're like a pro and it's your first time loading into the game, or if it's your first time loading into the game and you go against a pro player, you're like, this is not fun. Like you don't get to your survival time is 3.2 seconds like per life. Like you're not doing anything. So they want to improve that. How they're going to do that, not entirely sure. And they wanted to improve different like cheat improvements. I don't really know how you cheat at the game, especially since most of the time when I am playing Halo, I'm playing on console. So not entirely sure about that. And then the last experience goal, they wanted the game to be stable and high quality. So making sure they kind of go over and just fix the technical difficulties, because this is a big game. Like the files for these games are massive. So making sure that they went through and actually fixed those to like improve UI, to implement UI improvements, improve the experience and customization, and just overall the stability and performance of the game as well.
Well, and something to bounce off of as far as gameplay stability. I don't know if you're on Halo Twitter at all, but the game is really laggy.
Ooh, that's like not good.
Multiplayer, it's terrible. I see videos every day, it seems like, of people like shooting through other players or like throwing a grenade and it'll pass right through somebody, or just like people just like appear in different places. It's like you can't play a fast-paced competitive shooter with these kinds of issues.
No.
It is 2022. Figure it out.
Dude, I'm already playing on a bad internet connection. I would play one game like that and be like, I'm going to go play my mobile game over here that has a better, has a better gameplay experience. Because that's how it goes. Just saying. I actually do play some mobile games that have a more smooth gameplay experience than that. So that's not good, especially when Halo is like the kingpin of like the Xbox exclusives.
We have some more news about things coming up. Do you want to?
I'm just laughing at your news on the little co-op thing that you had there. Andrew is muy excited about this.
Yeah. So we originally wrote these episode notes over a month ago, and since then my interest for it is it's gone to zero. I just don't care.
I'm no longer excited.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I've moved on. The next co-op game I plan on playing is probably going to be Darktide, especially if it comes to Game Pass.
In an episode about Halo, we talk about all the games we'd rather play other than Halo. Got him. No, not really, but a little bit. So under the co-op section, you have written down that split screen has been canceled. I don't like that. Is that true?
Yeah. According to, I believe that same interview, they trashed split screen, even though it seemed like in development testing it did pretty well.
Why would you do that, dude? People have siblings. Honestly, like you're losing out on the like fundamental like growth experience like we had, right? Like we grew up playing this game in the same room on the same couch, like complaining about screen peaking, all that fun stuff, like, but also playing like the campaign and stuff together, which I know that they, fundamentally don't value, which we've covered on plenty. But like, why would you cancel split screen? What if like a brother and sister want to play Halo together? I have friends in college that like that's how they got into gaming, is they would just be like, yeah, we're going to play video games together. Some very good friends of mine, they're like, oh, we love playing Halo together. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, why would you not do that with future releases? That's so short-sighted.
Yeah, there's two things with that. The first thing is that gaming studios, and in this case 343, legitimately thinks that we don't have friends that we interact with in real life,
or like siblings. Like, is everyone an only child? Like,
it's insane. I'm not going to try to defend it. I think it's dumb. But the second thing is something that I have noticed in the trend in the gaming industry as a whole is the concept of anniversary editions and remakes, if you can get a fan of your franchise when they're young, you'll have them for life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a missed opportunity. I don't know why they would do it this way. I think it's worth the investment. In 20 years, when they're gonna like, yeah, let's release the Halo Infinite Anniversary Edition. It's like, well, can I play with can I play with my brother? Can I play with like my brother's kids who are now around at this point? It's like, no, you can't. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to then.
True to the original intent of the game. No, you cannot.
So
yeah,
it's a huge missed opportunity. I don't know if it's like a bandwidth thing and they just don't have the design bandwidth to develop split screen. Again, it's something with their infrastructure of the game and how they've programmed it. It seems like they lose their dang minds.
Yeah, I don't know how they got to
people
that point.
are in the campaign world.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous for them to do that.
It really grinds my gears.
It grinds my gears, absolutely. There are more game modes and stuff coming, so they did mention a lot of other content other than them just like sucking at split screen and trying to write off co-op as much as they could. Forge is coming back. That was one of the most creative portions of Halo that people could do, is they could make their own maps and things like that. And you could essentially, with Forge, you could write your own game modes, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can, I mean, it's like Minecraft and Halo had a baby. That's what Forge is. I really like Forge. I think it's fun. I just never had the time to do that, to really spend and like sit down and like make a map that I really liked. Because when I was young and Forge first came out on like Halo 3, I think, something like that, I don't actually know, I would just put rocket launchers everywhere. I would just put as much explosives in the entire map, and I would just like make everything go boom, and it would just like freeze.
Give the people what they want.
And it would just freeze the computer every time I'd blow something up, because there'd be like one grenade would blow up, but that would then set off the 18 barrels that were around it, which would set off the 29 barrels around it, and it would just like, the whole map would just like lose all its frames. But they do have some new maps coming out as well. A new mode, which is like a convert one flag, so two teams fighting over one flag, so a version of capture the flag, which I think is going to be cool. But again, I think it's going to be mostly focused around something they want to involve in the pro circuit. Whether or not like I would actually enjoy playing that, probably not. They had some quality of life updates and drop pods as well, which I'm not a huge fan of, like customization things. I think most of the time that's just like money grabs.
What are drop pods?
I believe it's just like different customization options, but I didn't make any extra notes on that, so I'm just like, kind of like, nah. One thing I thought that was really interesting is when you listened through the video, there's a lot of different takeaways you could have gotten from that, but I think the real takeaways was the YouTube comments on this video,
which are always such a great place to be.
Yeah, if you ever want to feel really good about yourself, read YouTube comments. But this one was especially brutal. Like, people were up in arms, like just absolutely tearing these guys to shreds, and not in like the normal, like, oh, I'm going to be a troll here. People were like genuinely like, you're taking the game we love and you're ruining it. Like, these are valid concerns. These are not just internet trolls. And it was every single comment. It was really bad.
Yeah, that's going to be a confirmed yikes for me. Over.
Absolutely. But yeah, what would you say your biggest takeaways from this was?
Honestly, just it's a huge disconnect from what the developers are doing, and at least what I want. I'm not going to go as far to say that I am the average voice of the consumer that they're trying to reach, but I wouldn't say that my desires for what the game has to be isn't that far away from the mean of my age demographic. I just want to be able to play with my friends. I generally prefer player versus enemy, so PvE type games. I like campaigns. I like goofy multiplayer modes, which I think they still have. I haven't really looked into it because I'm just not interested. And it makes me really sad because like I loved Halo to the point where my gamer tag at one point was Despunker, and I legitimately thought that was a cool thing. Looking back, I'm so embarrassed of it. I think there are still some handles online that go by that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're such a dork. Why didn't anyone bully you? That was such a bad idea.
Well, I mean, if you remember mine was Demon Slayer, and the reason it was Demon Slayer is
Oh, I
because
loved
in
that.
Halo 2, that was the first Halo where you could choose to either be human or alien, and I would always choose alien. And if you know anything about the elites, when they are fighting the Spartans, they always referred to them as demons. So like when I was playing split screen with you guys, I would always I mean, I thought maybe this is just my brain, like just like operating on just 110% confirmation bias, but I thought I was the best Halo player in the family. So I was like, oh yes, I'm constantly slaying you guys, so I'm Demon Slayer. Like, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but
You are not. You. Oh my gosh! You thought.
Sorry, folks, we're experiencing some technical difficulties.
Have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it.
But that's that. I mean, we both had Halo-based gamer tag names. That is no longer the case, but yeah, it's been a long ways. I mean, Halo 3 launched with what, a full solo and co-op campaign in 2007, and it's what, 15 years later, and we still can't play co-op with our friends. Like, hey guys, decade and a half, get your stuff together.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo. Boo.
One of the things that really is shocking is that they go through all of these as well, and they're like, oh, by the way, our goal is to actually like complete all these objectives by the end of 2023, so like next year.
Gosh.
Like, not even hoping like, hey, we're gonna get this all done by like the 1 year mark. It's like, nope, by the 2 year mark, we're actually hoping to have a completed game. I hate to break this to you guys, but if it takes you 2 years to release a game and have all the features you wanted in it, you should have waited the extra 2 years, because we would have found other games to play. We would have started playing when it came back. We would have had an overall positive impression, and you went for the money grab and you didn't give your consumers what they wanted. Like, there's enough games where like, dude, we don't have to play your game. Like, there are so many other fun games. I can play Minecraft for hours, just putting blocks down like a child. I was last night, you know what I did for fun? I made a puzzle, and it was so fun.
I freaking love puzzles.
And I'm like, dude, if I'd rather like make a puzzle than play your high octane shooter game that was totally finished at the beginning and at release, come on, man. Like, what are you doing?
To be fair, it was a Lego puzzle.
It was a Lego puzzle.
Pretty cool.
I'm excited. It's still out on the table. I'm very excited to finish it this weekend, hopefully. It'll be kind of my weeknight treat when I'm done with work. But anyways, I mean, this is really, I think, for both of us, I think you summed this up really well, is this is turning both of us off from Halo for a little bit.
Yep.
So that being said, I also have not watched the Halo series at all. I've heard that it's okay, but I've heard that mostly the series is actually catering to like the new generation of Halo fans.
Okay, I think that's enough of us taking a big old dump on Halo Infinite. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's enough for it for now.
Let's talk about the news.
So yeah, lots of news bits. We are recording this episode also on October 22nd. So yesterday, Black Adam released, starring Dwayne Johnson. So you got to go see it. I have not. What was your kind of initial impression on that?
I actually tweeted about it. I'll try to sum up the tweet without actually looking at it. Black Adam delivers on its promises, and you get a movie of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson absolutely brutally murdering people for about 2 hours with his bare hands and his lightning fingies. However, that's pretty much all the movie does. It's a good action film. It's got no substance other than that.
So, knowing nothing about Black Adam myself, this is a DC movie, right?
It's a DC movie. Black Adam is the foil to Shazam.
So he's a bad guy.
Anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero. Okay, so he's not a villain, but he's an anti-hero. Okay, so he's a hero that likes to kill people. He's the Deadpool, but not as funny.
He kills a lot of people.
Okay.
Also, there's definitely some footage in the trailers that doesn't show up in the movies.
That's pretty
Like
common. Movies will do that all the time. They'll give you this trailer footage, but like that trailer's made months beforehand, and a lot of times the editors and directors are like, "Oh, we actually ended up cutting that."
Yeah,
happens
sad
all
beans.
the time.
Anyway,
more movies coming out. Up on the Marvel side, we've got Black Panther coming out on November 11th. So that's coming out in actually just a few weeks. So very excited about that.
The Dune 2 release date has been pushed forward. We still don't have a hard date, but it seems like filming on this is going really well. If you haven't seen the most recent Dune movie, I 110% recommend it. It was my favorite movie of
I still need to watch it.
2021. It's so good. Oh my gosh. It's phenomenal.
Love it. Timothy Chalamet.
Oh
Can't
my gosh.
wait.
Sorry.
In other news, Blade is also looking for a new director. If you haven't seen Blade, I highly recommend watching the old ones because it's a totally different direction of what you thought a superhero movie could be. So that's always going to be a fun one, but we will update you guys once we know more on that as well.
Yeah, so that got pushed back. Along with that, Deadpool 3, Fantastic Four, and Avengers Secret Wars have apparently been delayed. Marvel Studios is in a era of just kind of struggle busing.
To be fair, I mean, they built a fairly large media empire, and like the expectations are that like we get a new Marvel movie every 9 months or so, like even sooner than that. If you look between like the big releases, it's like 2 years. But between every big release, there's like new movies coming out all the time. And we expect them to be fairly well made as well. So there's a lot of happening. And Marvel fans, just like Star Wars fans, end up finding like 2 directors that we actually like. And then those directors can't obviously do it all. So that's kind of a problem with that as well. Moving on, we also have no release date for Ahsoka yet. Very excited for this, considering that's probably in the new Star Wars canon. Ahsoka's probably one of the most beloved characters moving forward.
Yes.
So we saw her in Mandalorian. She takes a huge role. She's, arguably one of the most important characters, other than just straight up Anakin, in the entire series. Yeah. And we haven't seen anything about that yet, but I'm very excited to see more about her role. I think she's one of my favorite characters. She has such a huge growth as a character. Fantastic. Loved her in the Clone Wars. Loved her in Mando. Super excited to see where that series goes. Can't wait until we hear from that release date.
And then we still are slated to get Mando Season 3 in February of 2023. Dude, that's coming up.
It's 4 months away.
For 3 to 4 months. So really excited about that.
Absolutely. We talked the entire episode about Halo. Halo Season 2 has begun its filming. I wrote that down probably about 3 weeks ago, so hopefully we are going to see some more updates on that as well. I don't know when that's going to be released, though. To be fair, I also haven't watched Halo Season 1 yet either.
I have not. Next thing is with the Minecraft mob vote. Actually already happened. That's not really upcoming news, it's previous news. The Sniffer won the Minecraft mob vote.
Did you end up voting in that? Oh, I did, and
I didn't.
I voted for the Tough Golem, and the Tough Golem, I think, came in dead last.
Was the Sniffer the one that did like hide and seek?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I voted mostly on aesthetics and like I just scanned function. I just hopped into the vote and voted and hopped out. Yeah. So I haven't even in my current Minecraft world, I haven't even messed around with axolotls yet. So I'm several mobs behind on actual interaction. But we are also going to see some other Minecraft news coming out. So they just came out with their new snapshot for 1.20. And depending on if you play on Java or Bedrock, we play on Bedrock mostly. So this is a little bit harder to find these data packs and snapshots. But the newest snapshot does also have camels in it as well. From the footage I've seen so far, the camels have 2-player carrying capacity, so you can put 2 players on it instead of 1. It has a bound feature, or kind of like a leap, so you can leap canyons and crevasses and stuff, so it's a pretty mobile entity to ride on, and I believe it spawns in desert villages. So not just the desert, but you have to find a desert village for it to spawn in.
Thank you for that. I haven't been keeping up with Minecraft news.
I've been trying
placing
to.
a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
Placing a lot of blocks, but not keeping up with the news.
I usually listen to Minecraft-related content while also playing Minecraft.
Gotcha.
Kind of keeps my creative juices flowing. And lastly, we've got Warhammer 9th Edition is coming to an end. I'm pretty excited about this because there are some codexes that need some updates. You're really excited about this because hopefully Space Marines will get a update. Before then,
Oh, they need a buff.
before then, we do have a new game mode called like boarding action. So it's kind of a smaller board. In my opinion, it's kind of the bridge between Kill Team and like a regular size game of Warhammer. You're just running smaller armies, but with regular Warhammer rules, and you get a new board to fight in. So it's a pretty cool looking board game. As we're going through, I really like the terrain for this set. I think it's really neat. But some rules for boarding action is you can't run any vehicles or monsters, because the idea is that you basically just like launched a torpedo full of soldiers into the enemy ship, and now that torpedo has to unload, just like what happens in like all of the books. There's always a boarding action in the books. You would never find a Warhammer book and be like, and we have zero space combat at all. Like there's always somebody like they got launched through a giant torpedo, a bunch of them unloaded, and a blah blah blah. So you can't do vehicles and monsters. So that would immediately exclude characters like Gazgul, because he's a monster character, because he's just too big. You can't run like dreadnoughts or like speeders, things like that. It's basically just like an infantry, close quarter combat a la Kill Team, but normal mechanics. I'm really excited about it, actually.
I'm looking at the terrain set for this right now, and it's very customizable a la like D&D, where you set up like you make your dungeon. You make a dungeon and then you play in it. This is awesome.
I think this would do really well.
I'm gonna have to buy that.
And what it does, I think, is it allows the game to be cut into more of a short form method. That's one of my biggest drawbacks with Warhammer right now, is it takes too long to play games, especially if you want to play with big armies. There's just too much happening at the same time.
Games Workshop desperately needs to figure out how to make the game more concise and simple, and just get rid of some of the rules, guys. There's
Absolutely
too much stuff going on.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about this. One of my goals is to actually like get into and start like making some more terrain pieces or have a terrain board set up. But I love the idea of playing smaller matches just because they can go by quicker. It makes it a little bit more rewarding to play the game, because you can try out different factions without having to buy into this huge army and then for it to be like, oh, this army sucks. I bought Imperial Guard and it's terrible, which there's actually a lot of Imperial Guard news coming out. They're doing some remodels, or not remodels, but kind of like they're restructuring the army itself. So super excited about that. But I haven't looked into that yet. So we'll hopefully have that as some future news points as well.
Okay, I think that's all we got for you this week.
Fantastic. Do we want to end with our three, like kind of, we didn't do this in the last episode, but do you want to finish with like any of the exit questions?
Yeah, let's do it. What nerdy things have you been working on this week?
So I've been doing two different things. I've been focusing on building up some content for my Minecraft world, and I also did a little bit of streaming this week as well, which I'm releasing all of my stream recaps to YouTube. I did 3 rounds of zombies in my last stream, along with some multiplayer stuff. I did 3 rounds of zombies. So I did a normal round, a hardcore round, and a endless round. The endless round, actually all of my teammates left, so I actually dipped out at round 15. I just couldn't, I was like, I could maybe get a little bit farther, but I was like running out of ammo about 2/3 of the way through, which was kind of frustrating. But played a round of normal and hardcore. I actually posted both of those recaps up on YouTube already, so those are actually available. So if you guys want to, you guys can find those. Really appreciate it. I actually work pretty hard on making sure those are all edited, and I'm learning a lot of fun skills along the way.
They look awesome, by the way. I pretty much watch all your videos as soon as they come up, and I'm like, this is good stuff. This is good.
Yeah, my only complaint is that there's a little bit of a delay because I'm taking the recording footage via Twitch, which I need to be doing a little bit better at just recording it straight from my PC.
Got to get a capture card.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to have a capture card, but that costs money. I also want to like completely revamp the PC, but that's going to take a little bit of time. What kind of things have you been working on?
I've been working on some new Warhammer stuff, IRL board game stuff. So one of these is a custom Tau model that I got from a guy I support on Patreon. Well, I don't support him anymore, but I want a giveaway, and so I got a little Tau.
No way.
Basically the size of a strike force. It's missing an HQ, so I technically would need to buy more units before that's board legal. I'm in a paint and or I'm gonna at least prime them and build them. And then I'm actually just gonna give these to you. You're a big Tau guy, so I'm just gonna give these to you. I do want to paint them myself. I plan on trying to get something like Black 3.0, which is one of like the super black, like it doesn't reflect any light, and completely cover them with that, and then do like flick different like highly fluorescent paints on it so that each of the guys looks like a starscape, and then doing something interesting for the base as well.
That'd be super cool. We could even do that together. I wouldn't mind just like having a day where we both paint up some models. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, we do sort of have plans for a painting retreat later this year, so I'll try to have them built by then.
There you go.
And then I'm working on, I got this as a birthday present. This is a pewter cast of Ezekiel. So this is basically like a Warhammer antique.
Dang.
Really excited about this one. Really excited to paint that. And then I ordered some other stuff as well. I ordered a Triceratops with guns on it.
I'm so excited for you to field that.
I got that from Etsy. Really excited for that to come in. And then I ordered some miscellaneous other parts on Etsy. And then I got a Ravenwing Dark Talon. So it's an aircraft. Nice. So yeah, I think it's the Dark Talon.
Very cool.
So a lot of Warhammer stuff.
I like it. What's one thing you did to take care of yourself this week?
I did get sick this week, so I've just been trying to drink lots of water. A buddy of mine is a physical therapist, and he's been helping me kind of rehab one of my feet. I think I pulled a muscle in my foot a couple months ago, and I'm like, you know what? Like, it's really just giving me a lot of trouble. I'll ask him for some tips, and he sent me like half a dozen YouTube videos to be like, do these stretches, and I'm already starting to see gains from that.
Sweet.
Which hopefully with that I can start walking more. I'm very much a fan of low impact exercise with all of the injuries I've had playing football. So
100%. I'm right there with you. Actually, that's something that I've been doing a lot this week as well, is not necessarily low impact exercise, but lowering the impact of my exercise. I recently got a new pair of Hokas, and they have been life changing. I've worn this type of shoe before, but I specifically found one that was responsive enough in its cushion. So it's a very plush cushion, because again, when you're big like us and you run, that's a lot of impact. And it has a little bit of extra sole support. So like, this is like the first time in months, like my foot has not actively hurt every time I walk around the house. And my like knees and hips don't just hurt when I'm just sitting here. And so I can get the amount of exercise I need every week without like just breaking my body down, which feels really good.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolutely. For the last exit question we have, what is like your favorite fall drink?
It is a tie between a pumpkin spice latte and a dirty chai.
Ooh, what's in a dirty chai?
It's chai tea with espresso shots.
Nice.
And I think like sugar and stuff too.
Yeah,
sugar and a little bit of cream. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying just a good apple cider. Preferably cold, but like it's pretty good warm. Like I did mulled cider the other week. Actually, when you guys were over, when we watched the Mariners game. But I really like
that was only one.
Yeah,
that was the wild card.
I know. I was just mostly referring to like the Mariners didn't make it past the next series, which was sad.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Stupid Houston. Anyways, that's kind of what I've been drinking mostly, but I am a huge fan of the PSLs. So big fun. What was I going to say? Big fun. Big surprise. Big shock.
I am big fun. They call me Big Fun.
Stop. But yeah, those are kind of our exit questions here, guys. We're really excited to hear more from you guys. So we're going to be editing these videos. We're going to be posting them. You guys are going to catch these 2 new episodes on Mondays. We want to make sure that you guys are getting your feedback in as well. We want to hear about you, suggest topics you guys want us to go over. We do spend the time to research those topics, see what's going on in the community, and potentially play around with like the games and the books and the movies and all that stuff. We want to make sure that we're trying the products so that we can bring the most honest opinions for you guys. Thank you guys all for listening and taking that time out of your day to be here with us. We really appreciate your time. If you want to hear more about us on a specific topic, again, you can follow us at Talk Tatooine on Twitter. Feel free to just send us a message or just add us, whatever you want to do. Or if you want to see this in video format, make sure you guys drop a comment on our YouTube and a like and a subscribe as well at Talk About Tatooine on YouTube. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, may the Force be with you.